Today, we're doing 2 college football player props here on PrizePicks for Saturday, November 9th. Before we get started, you guys take a look in the description below of this video. Hop into the Discord, you guys. $9.30 per month, 31 cents per day is what it comes out to. Currently doing a special for first-time members in the Discord. 20% off your first month using the link in the description to join, and then promo code TUFF. So again, join the Discord, you guys. Super positive community. It's where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We have their captures in there as well. Overall, super positive community. Also mentioned, I'm not a gambling expert. This is not financial advice. Simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully give you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions. Again, no one's pressing submit on those parlays other than yourselves. But a couple other housekeeping notes, you guys. Go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter. There's a link in the description below with my Twitter account. Really trying to start the Twitter grind. I've been posting daily play of the days here on Twitter. We're 6-1 over our last 7 daily Twitter play of the days. For example, like today's play of the day for this video, or Friday, was Alperen Sengun over 13.5 rebounds plus assists. Me recording this video. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet. This game hasn't started, but nonetheless, full write-ups, you guys, at Tough Picks on Twitter, verified on Twitter, you guys. So go ahead and give me a follow. I also do want to talk about Daily Grind Fantasy really quickly, you guys. Daily Grind Fantasy DFS Optimizer is a tool that I do use every single day, you guys, to add plays into my parlays. They do the hard work for you here. You can see, for example, one of the top plays on the board is Breece Hall plus James Conner over 144.5 rushing yards combo. Because, again, it takes the lines from all the major sports books and then puts it on a percentage odds to hit over on the Daily Grind Fantasy DFS Optimizer, right? So, like, this combo line on DraftKings would be minus 152 on the over. It's at minus 140. Sorry, it'd be minus 144.5 over minus 152. It's on PrizePicks at 144.5. So if you can see, there's not going to be a ton of plays that are sitting on PrizePicks that are minus 150 plus on the sports book. So really, the DFS Optimizer Daily Grind does all the hard work for you. You can get 25% off your first month using the link in the description below and promo code TUFF. Again, absolute elite tool that I do use every single day to add plays in my lays. But let's get into it, you guys. 2 player props, college football, Saturday, November 9th. Literally, I mean, we got like 3 or 4 more weeks left of college football. Pretty crazy how fast this season has come and gone. But nonetheless, let's get into it. So the first play, I got to ride with Shedeur Sanders here. 24.5 fantasy score over. The best matchup he's going to get all season long. Shedeur at Texas Tech. 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when this game starts. But taking a look at this matchup here, this game should be just an absolute shootout. Both these teams are pretty good, right? 6-2 Colorado, 6-3 Texas Tech, 63.5 over under. Colorado's actually 4.5 point favorites here on the road. 63.5 point game total, though. This game should just be an absolute electric shootout. Both these teams really play no defense at all. And both these teams, I think, need big wins here as we move towards the end of the college football season. But we're looking at Shedeur Sanders, obviously, has had a terrific season. And again, the Colorado offense is pretty much pass first. I would say anytime I'm following a Colorado game and I see Colorado in the red zone and then I go and see that they scored, it's most often a Shedeur Sanders pass TD. But 24 plus fantasy in 5 of 8 games this season. He's obviously been just super electric, more specifically at home. But this matchup, you guys, this matchup is just it's too low to ignore, in my opinion, and it's too great to ignore. I mean, over 1.5 passing touchdowns, for example, right, is minus 525 on DraftKings, minus 450 on FanDuel. If we look at his 2.5 passing touchdowns, it's actually juiced on the over as well. 2.5 is minus 125 on DraftKings, minus 130 here on FanDuel, right? So even books favoring him to throw 3 passing touchdowns, and for example, if in games he's thrown at least 3 passing touchdowns this season, you can see the high floor upside for this fantasy scoreline, right? But more specifically, this matchup is just extremely elite. Even the game total, right? If we talk about the game total, we go to his fantasy score. Again, this is Outlier. There's a link in the description. You can get a 7-day free trial using Outlier. But over his last 10 games, right? Like when you filter this to win, like the total points scored is like, let's just say north of 56. He's over in 7 of 10, averaging 28.14 fantasy over in 7 of his last 10 games here, and really all 9 of his last 10 games when 56 plus points are scored, he's had at least 21 plus fantasy. But the matchup, you guys, it's absolutely elite. Texas Tech allowing the most fantasy points in the conference, the Big 12 conference, to the quarterback position at 30.4 fantasy points per game. And even if you filter this to like the entire country, like quarterback fantasy points in the entire country, you can see here Texas Tech, the 4th most total fantasy points in the entire country to the quarterback position, right? And we know a lot of this attributes to Texas Tech's offense and the way they score the ball, right, which causes for them to just be in a ton of shootouts. If we take a look here at these games for Texas Tech this season, I mean, pretty much every game has been pretty high scoring, and with both teams being able to score the ball, which is why I like this spot for Shedeur, because Colorado defense is prone to giving up a ton of points. But we look at just quarterbacks and their fantasy score totals this season versus Texas Tech. We look at Josh Hoover, for example. He had 21.7. I'm going to show you the fantasy score totals for quarterbacks in games versus Texas Tech this season. Like Josh Hoover had 21.7. He threw 2 picks and also had a fumble, right? So he basically, you could take away, I don't know, what would that be? He'd finish with like 25 fantasy points if he didn't have those turnovers. Sawyer Robinson versus Texas Tech here, 32.6 fantasy. Brendan Sorsby, quarterback Cincinnati, versus Texas Tech, 37.2. We look at this next one, Sam Levitt, right, Texas Tech, 18.8, and he didn't really have to do much. He didn't even throw a passing touchdown. He finished with 18.8 fantasy. John Mateer versus Texas Tech, absolutely electric, 33.3. And then, again, Maverick McIver, who I've been pointing this out when we've been targeting Texas Tech, elite quarterbacks against Texas Tech. He plays for Abilene Christian. He had 32.4 fantasy points against Texas Tech, 506 yards through the air, and 3 passing touchdowns to open the season on the road at Texas Tech. It's just absolutely electric. I think this game could clear. I mean, in my opinion, this game's going to clear 63.5. Sorry, I could see this game getting close to 80, in my opinion. And the line is just too low for Shedeur. I would play this up to 25.5, in my opinion. But Shedeur over 24.5 fantasy is the first play. Second play is a play we've been taking. I took a couple weekends ago. And he missed by like 0.8, but it's Josh Hoover at 23.5 versus Oklahoma State. And similar game script, similar type of game environment. This game total is 67.5. 67.5 point game total for this Oklahoma State TCU matchup. Just one of the highest game totals on the slate, and one of the highest game totals I've seen all season. TCU's 11-point favorites here at home against Oklahoma State. And very similarly, right? Very similarly to Texas Tech. Oklahoma State's pass defense is horrible, and we look at Josh Hoover, right? We look at Josh Hoover this season. He is over this line in 5 of 9 games this season, right? Has a pretty high floor as well. 7 of 9 games, he's had at least 18.7 plus fantasy points. And again, this offense is a pass-heavy offense, right? You can see the pass attempts here for Josh Hoover, pretty much 30-plus passing attempts in every single game this season, except for one here against a weaker opponent. But in competitive games, right, when it's kind of a shootout type of atmosphere, there's a ton of upside here for Josh Hoover, who, again, TCU loves to throw the football. Again, looking at some odds for Josh Hoover here, over 1.5 passing touchdowns, minus 425. He's actually listed on PrizePicks as well at 2.5 passing touchdowns. Just similar to Shedeur Sanders, and 2.5 for Josh Hoover. Minus 110 on DraftKings, so pretty much even odds here for him. But more specifically, you guys, like I said, the matchup is just terrific. Oklahoma State, 29.2 total fantasy points per game they are allowing to the quarterback position, the second most in the Big 12 Conference. And again, if you go to the entire country and you kind of look at this matchup, Oklahoma State, again, right here, 124th in the country in fantasy points to the quarterback position. We look at, again, games that Oklahoma State has played. They've lost 6 in a row now, and every single game that they've lost has pretty much been a shootout, and they've allowed the other team to just score pretty much at will, right? We look at other quarterbacks' fantasy score game totals versus Oklahoma State. Sam Levitt just last weekend, 24.7 fantasy. Sawyer Robinson, again, another player we've targeted against Oklahoma State, 33.2. Jake Retzloff, quarterback BYU versus Oklahoma State, 28.8. Right, you can see right here, 28.8. So we've seen 1, 2, 3 straight quarterbacks hit the over on this line against Oklahoma State. Garrett Green versus Oklahoma State, 21, only had 159 yards through the air. Who's the next guy I have? Avery Johnson, right, dual threat quarterback, true redshirt freshman versus Oklahoma State, 39.4, absolutely electric game, 259 through the air, 3 passing touchdowns. And then we also look at Taylon Green against Oklahoma State, 25.7. So we've seen, 7 different quarterbacks so far this season clear 24-plus fantasy points here against Oklahoma State. Love this spot here for Josh Hoover at home. Again, 67.5 point game total. You guys definitely targeting this one as well. Again, check out all the links in the description below. You guys give me a follow on Twitter. 2 player props for this college football Saturday, November 9th YouTube video. Please drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.